there's a lot of misconceptions about herbicides, and a lot of them most of them are not factual. So there's a whole community of people in the world that, for example, they hate Monsanto. They hate Monsanto because they're into genetically modified plants and stuff. So they hate Monsanto. So the way they try and get at Monsanto is they make up stories and blame glyphosate for all these things causing cancer, etc., etc., etc. But none of them are true. That's just what they're using to try and persuade you and me not to use that product, because they want to get at that multinational company for whatever reason, and they see their best opportunity of that is spreading lies about not just Monsanto's Roundup product, but glyphosate itself, which is produced by hundreds of different companies around the world. That's the active ingredient. Roundup is only one brand. And all the things that they put on social media is all rubbish. So, and you'll get hit up with that all the time. People will say, oh, so just be aware of that. If you look up glyphosate on the internet, you're probably going to find a lot of absolute rubbish stories. It's always best to stick with the facts, and the facts are in the hazards that are identified for those products. They've all been tested.
Well, I think it's actually having this thing down in the Pacific. I was talking to Takala. He said that even Fiji is looking at banning glyphosate.
I doubt they shouldn't do. I don't know why they would do that.
In Vanuatu, currently there's
I think it's that.
going around to ban glyphosate.
Yes.
Say that again?
In Vanuatu, there's a petition going around asking people to sign to ban glyphosate in Vanuatu.
Yeah, well, that's just short-sightedness.
Yeah,
You tell those people to go and start pulling out all those weeds then.
This is cancer and everything.
Yes, a lot of that's driven by politics, and it's used by people trying to achieve their own political agendas. It's worth having a think about where the information is coming from, and the best source that I've come across is through the New Zealand system, because those classifications are awarded by New Zealand's Environmental Protection Authority. You can go online and find out who those people are. They're independent of any chemical manufacturer. It's an independent assessment. So, I mean, there's a lot of places you could gain information from, but it's worth having a think about what their motivation actually is. Yeah. It's hard to see how there's any sense in banning glyphosate.
No, that's just one of the worst things you could do. Basically, you would have no tools.
So the EPA in New Zealand responded to these concerns amongst the broader international community. You may have noticed there's been some highly publicised cases coming out of the United States. They did a review in 2016 on the use of glyphosate and found that there was no cause to change their original classifications for that product. So it's up to date, it's independent, and those are things that are worth considering when you're looking for information about any product.
I think maybe there's something that maybe like an organisation like SPRIT can obviously assist the countries that are actually looking at banning glyphosate. And maybe you guys can, through the Director General, send some sort of message to the leaders who are actually taking or banning glyphosate. That it's actually one of the least harmful. Because if you take it, if you actually ban it, then obviously it restricts the amount of other chemicals that you can actually use.
Well, you're going to be using more dangerous chemicals for you and the environment. That's pretty much the safest one there is. I don't know what these people are thinking of banning it, so what are people going to use then? Something more toxic?
Well, my understanding is that it's been used so frequently in Europe at such high concentrations on just the same places that when those glyphosate molecules hit the soil, they bind to the soil particles, which makes them inert, which makes it a very safe product. But if you saturate those soil particles with glyphosate, they can only so much can bind to them. So because it's been poured on the same places at high concentrations for such a long time, it starts to become mobile through the environment. And they're using that as a basis for suggesting that it shouldn't be used at all, when in fact common sense suggests that it should just be used, more sensibly.
And that context is a story you rarely hear. That's the first time I've ever heard anyone say that, but it's something that more people should be aware of, is always coming back to it's not necessarily the product itself, it's how it's used and abused.
Totally. And for the control of invasive species, you're never using it like that. So banning it is not something that's been done with any thought around how to manage invasive species. None whatsoever.
Even sometimes, you get this rubbish from what you would think would be reputable sources. So the World Health Organization came out and said glyphosate was carcinogenic, as they did with bacon.
Potentially.
But then they went back on it and said, no, sorry, we're totally wrong, and withdrew it.
But by that stage,
so there was a reaction.
firestorm.
Yeah, it was a reactionary approach to this stuff that's coming out. So they said, okay, let's not use glyphosate. And then they looked at it, actually, none of that's true. So they had to backtrack on themselves. That's the World Health Organization. Yeah, and as Brad said, in that time, when they came out, then we had the Prime Minister of New Zealand going on about it. Everyone's jumping on this, how bad glyphosate was. Then the World Health Organization retracted what they said. But no one knows about that because that wasn't news. They just remember the World Health Organization banning glyphosate and all these political people saying to ban it, but there's been no emphasis on correcting that. So, yeah, social media, good and bad.
Sources, but themselves they don't give their own research.
And you don't have to do much. It's all on one page for each product on the internet. It's pretty straightforward. As I said, there's nothing more regulated than herbicides. All the information is there in black and white. There's not really any room to make anything up. It's all done, independent scientists. Anyway, you need to be aware of that. It's something that you'll all have to face. We have to face those situations like Haggard was talking about. We've had to face those all our lives, people coming out of their houses. The best thing you can do is know that the hazards are, be able to tell them what they are and what you've done to prevent the risk. Like I say, information is your best friend.